The private sector plays a tremendous role in developing infrastructure in the Philippines, tremendous amount of privatization as well as I say, private sector investments. Companies like us invest across the energy sector, the water sector, the waste management sector, and many other companies are involved into other sectors. You know, the four sectors that have been really driving infrastructure in the Philippines are really energy, water, digital connectivity, and transportation, with energy and water really having tremendous momentum behind, and the two sectors that we primarily invest into.
Right. So the focus for Prime Infra, based on what I'm seeing from the portfolio, is energy, as you mentioned, and also water. When you think about infrastructure, people tend to think about the hard assets, bridges, roads, factories, utilities. But you're focusing on things that seem to be flowing into households and to businesses. Why do you think that was the focus, if I may call it the focus, of Prime Infrastructure as you widen your portfolio or your foray into the Philippine infrastructure sector?
Well, we think it's extremely important when you invest in infrastructure, given the very long development cycle of these projects. Some of the projects we work on, we start 6-7 years in advance of breaking ground, and then it takes 3-4-5 years to build them. So we're talking about a decade type long development cycle. We think it's extremely important to invest into what we define as critical infrastructure. Infrastructure that addresses essential needs for the population: water, the issue of water scarcity; waste management, as it involves health issues, environmental pollution, and so on and so forth; and energy, of course, to keep the lights on and sustain the growth of the country. Keeping the lights on at an affordable rate is obviously a priority, and we want to continue to contribute along those lines. Of course, we try to tie all this, particularly the energy side of things, we try to tie all that around an energy security element, which is becoming increasingly important in the Philippines, which is why we, of course, exploit indigenous gas, and we're the only operator of indigenous gas in the country.
And I bring that up also because when we spoke to SM Investments CEO Frederick Dubuncio a few weeks ago, he said that they exited the data center business because the cost of power in the Philippines is too high. In fact, when you look at the Philippines' cost of power based on some estimates, it's actually the second highest in Southeast Asia and closer to the likes of Japan and Singapore than, say, Thailand or Malaysia. How important is it, and is it possible to actually make electricity more affordable, not just to Filipinos, but also to businesses in the Philippines? Because it seems to be an impediment, actually, for further investments from other sectors. Well,
I think it's paramount to achieve that objective. And to achieve that objective, we need to build more generation. But it's not only that. I think there is a tremendous challenge between the energy transition objectives and actually making power more affordable. Today, the energy matrix in the Philippines, using very round numbers, is more or less 55% coal, 20% gas, and the balance is renewable energy. When you look at affordability, coal today continues to be the cheapest source of power, but of course it's baseload power. On the gas side, we import a lot of gas and rely, of course, on the Manampaya gas field, which we are drilling new wells to try to expand the life of the Manampaya gas field, as looking at additional blocks. So the whole idea is to really generate as much as possible indigenous gas to support that cost element, be a little bit more isolated from volatile markets as we try to bring the cost of power down. And we supply gas to generators, about 4,000+ megawatts of installed gas capacity in the country. When it comes to renewable energy has become quite affordable on a standalone basis. But I think what people often miss is the fact that it demands a tremendous amount of infrastructure around that ecosystem to be able to get that energy to the clients, which is why we invest in grid scale infrastructure like pump storages to try to stabilize the grid and ensure that that renewable energy, in fact, finds its way to the ultimate customer. So there are a tremendous amount of complexities around the Philippines that often are not discussed. We're an archipelago. It's very difficult to connect 7,000 islands plus and do that in a very effective way. So it goes beyond a simple problem. It's a generation problem, it's a fuel supply problem, it's a distribution problem, it's a transmission problem. All of these elements need to be tackled at the same time, and all that infrastructure needs to grow in harmony to be able to utilize the full capacity and actually make power more affordable over time.